Hello, readers. Welcome to reading class with me, Miss Taylor. I'm glad you're here. All right, let's see. So, we know that reading is thinking. This is a good reminder for us just to kind of be aware of all the awesome things that are going on in our brains as we are reading. We're making connections, we're visualizing, we're asking questions, we're summarizing, predicting, synthesizing, inferring, all these awesome things that our brains are doing. We're also activating and using our schema. So we read a little while ago, we read all this cool information, this nonfiction information about knights and castles. And this stuff is helping us, all the cool information and facts we learned here is helping us to understand the stories of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. So, also we are going to think about in the King Arthur stories, just a reminder that we are thinking about what virtuous or unvirtuous choices do the characters make? What wise or unwise choices does King Arthur make? What makes someone a wise leader? What does it mean to be a loyal friend? Are there any other big ideas that are emerging? Hmm. And how does the author's use of beautiful language enhance our reading experience? How does it make it better because the author uses interesting language? All right, so some things to keep in mind. Speaking of beautiful language, yesterday we learned some new vocabulary words for chapter 2. We learned solemn, serious, important, focused, because King Arthur never forgot the solemn vow he made on the day he was crowned. Formidable. So in this chapter, we're going to meet someone who is a formidable fighter. His name is Sir Pellinore. Formidable, powerful, forceful, strong. Undaunted. Arthur could hardly believe his ears, but the boy went on undaunted, fearless, courageous, determined. So I wonder who this boy is that Arthur meets who's fearless. Oh, he also meets an insolent boy. Because I've just met an insolent boy who called me a fool. Oh, the king? He called the king a fool? Oh dear, he must be very rude, impolite, disrespectful. Don't call the king a fool. Oh dear. And belligerent. Pellinore turned slowly in his saddle and fixed Arthur with a belligerent stare. Oh, insolent, impolite, argumentative. It's kind of like a threatening. Like if you were, maybe you might give your brother or sister belligerent stare if they took all your toys, didn't ask you. Enchanted. Ooh, I like this one. Magical, having special powers. Then you're a fool, said Merlin bluntly. Oh, Merlin's calling him a fool now. Because the scabbard is enchanted. Ooh, and it's worth much more than the sword. Okay, so this is kind of giving us some ideas about what's going to happen with this sword. I mentioned that Arthur gets a new sword in this book, but I was wondering, where does he get the sword from? And the scabbard, if you're wondering what a scabbard is, that's like the holder for a sword. So that's where someone would keep their sword, kind of like a case or somewhere that you would put your sword is the scabbard, the case that holds the sword. Alrighty, so let's see. For today, we're going to read part of chapter 2 together, and we have some questions to answer. And let's read about Excalibur. So I'm already starting to predict and think about. I know that the name of Arthur's sword is Excalibur, so I'm wondering, what are we going to learn about the sword? All right, so would you please join me on page 25? Excalibur. King Arthur never forgot the solemn vow. Solemn, serious, right? Serious, important, focused. He never forgot the serious, solemn vow he made on the day he was crowned. But it was no easy task to bring peace to the kingdom of Logres. The land he now ruled had been torn apart by year after year of struggle and strife, and his father's old enemies seemed to be everywhere. His subjects were weary of long, bitter battles and worn down by the hardship and misery they had endured during those dark, troubled days. Oh, everyone's just kind of tired and exhausted. Mm. Have you ever felt tired and exhausted? Ooh. Soon after his coronation, and that's the ceremony where he became the king, Arthur gathered an army and drove out the invaders. That was one of his promises, remember? He restored all the stolen land to its rightful owners. Ooh. And set about building castles to defend all the coasts and borders of the kingdom. Wow, so far he's doing a nice job keeping his promises, isn't he? If we look back in chapter 1, remember these promises he made? The new king promised to rule justly over his people, to right all wrongs. Well, that one's pretty hard to do. That means make everything right that's wrong. Mm. To drive out the invaders, and to bring peace and prosperity to the troubled kingdom of Logres. So these are pretty tough promises that he made. It's not easy to do those things that he wants to do. But already he gathered an army, he drove out the invaders, he restored stolen land to its rightful owners, and he built a bunch of castles to help defend the kingdom. So far, he's doing a pretty good job, I'd say. As soon as this had been done, Arthur summoned together his most loyal knights and followers and set up court at Camelot, the biggest and most beautiful castle in all of Logres. I wonder what kind of castle you are imagining. I'm visualizing a really tall, beautiful castle. Maybe I'll go back and read this chapter. It's all about castles in this story. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. It was at Camelot that he was finally reunited with his real mother, Igraine, his sister Anna, and his half-sister, Morgan Le Fay, a powerful sorceress who had learned all her magic from Merlin. Despite all the joy and the excitement of meeting his real family, Arthur didn't forget Ector and Kay. Each member of his foster family was given an honorary position in the new household. Oh, so what does that tell us about Arthur? He didn't forget his foster family. In fact, he gave them an honorary position. He kind of gave them important jobs to do in the new household. So we can do a little inferring here. We can figure out that Arthur is a very just person. He's fair and just and kind to do that for his family. One morning, about a year into Arthur's reign, a bedraggled squire, a knight in training, rode into the courtyard at Camelot on a shambling horse. Hobbling behind him was another horse, with the bloodied body of the squire's master, Sir Miles, slumped across its saddle. The boy was so upset he could hardly speak, and it was some time before he had calmed down enough to explain what had happened. He described how he and his master had been trotting through the forest when Sir Miles had been attacked by a knight named Sir Pellinore. Sir Pellinore was a formidable fighter. Formidable. Let's see. Powerful, forceful, strong. He liked nothing better than to boast about how many knights he had killed. What can we infer about Pellinore? He's kind of cruel, isn't he? Boasting about people he's killed. And now he had set up his tent by a well near the road, and would not let anyone pass unless they jousted with him first. And here's a picture of someone jousting. So he's not going to let anyone go by unless they joust with him. When the tearful young squire had finished this story, he flung himself to his knees and begged King Arthur to help him avenge the death of his master. Avenge is like revenge. He wants to kind of get back, payback. Arthur, moved by the young man's plight, was considering what to do when Griflet, a squire of the court, strode forward and volunteered to face Sir Pellinore himself. So Griflet is also a squire. And remember, that is a knight in training, so he's probably pretty young. You're much too young, Griflet, Arthur told him, and no match for Sir Pellinore. You'll be an excellent knight when you're older, and I don't want to lose you now. In other words, he doesn't want Griflet to get hurt or killed. because then he can't become a knight when he's older. He's like, better just wait. Be patient. But Griflet continued to plead with such persistence that eventually Arthur relented. Okay, Arthur's like, He told Griflet that he would knight him and let him ride out to the forest only if he promised to joust with Pellinore just once, and then come straight back to Camelot. Griflet eagerly agreed and quickly knelt down to be knighted. Then he put on his armor, seized his weapons, and charged across the drawbridge. But in no time he was back, clinging feebly to his horse's neck, with a deep spear wound in his side. Ooh, he got hurt. Arthur was furious. By the time a surgeon arrived, he was galloping out of the gates himself, fully armed and with his heart set on revenge. When he reached the edge of the forest, a boy of about 14 suddenly stepped out into the road in front of him. "Whoa!" yelled the boy, raising his hand. It's like, "Whoa, stop." Arthur brought his horse to an abrupt halt. "Why do you look so serious?" asked the boy with a sly grin. Can you make a sly grin? "Because of the things I've seen," said Arthur, surprised by the question. "I know that already," snapped the boy. "In fact, I know everything you're thinking, and I know that you're a fool." A fool? He just called the king a fool. Arthur could hardly believe his ears, but the boy went on undaunted. Undaunted, let's see. Fearless, courageous, determined. "And I know your mother, and I knew your father, King Uther, and—" "You little liar!" yelled Arthur. "You've got no idea what you're talking about. You're far too young to know any of this. Now get out of my sight." The boy sidled off into the forest, and almost at once an old man with a long purple cloak appeared in his place. His face looked kind and wise. Very kind and wise. Let's see. "Why do you look so serious, sir?" the old man asked in a sonorous voice. "Not again," thought Arthur. "Because I've just met an insolent boy who called me a fool and said that he knew my father," was his reply. Insolent, rude, disrespectful, impolite. "But he did know your father," insisted the old man. "And he knows many other things about you. He knows that one day your kingdom will fall to a child who is not yet born, and that the same child will grow up to defeat you in battle, and that the child will be named Mordred. And—" "Stop," said Arthur. "Who are you to tell me this?" "Merlin," said the old man, and before Arthur's eyes he changed back into the boy. Merlin became the boy. Then, just as suddenly, he vanished into thin air with an eerie little laugh that rang through the forest. Can you just hear his it echoes through the forest. Arthur looked around, but he was completely alone. "Merlin!" called Arthur. "Come back! I need to talk to you!" But Merlin had gone. Hey, that's kind of like in the first chapter, when he heard a voice in his head, and then Arthur looked around, and Merlin had vanished. He keeps vanishing. Merlin, he's so mysterious. All right. So let's see, second graders. I think what we're going to do, we're going to pause here, and your job is going to be to finish reading a couple more pages. So I would like you to continue reading pages 29, 30, 31, 32, and we're going to stop here at the top of page 33. All right, so you're going to keep reading until the top of page 33, and then you're going to answer a few questions about chapter 2. All right, so we are going to answer, well, we kind of already answered this question, but questions 1 through 5. All right, so we'll stop there for today. Readers, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you again soon.